Okay, hello everybody. This is Talking Jobs with me, rbromnick, and we're going to be talking about technology today as part of the Follow Your Passion series. So there may be people out there, you might have started with a hobby. I'm talking here about the people that like to take the back off radios or design apps, or who are using all kinds of wearables and things. And one of the key things about modern psychology is the technology and digital revolution that we see all around us really impacts on the study of our disciplines. So some of you might want to take your passion for technology and make that into your career. And a bit later on I'm going to introduce you to my guest today, Todd Parsons, who's going to share his story with you. So if you are interested in the technology side of psychology, I'm not talking here about just using IT, that's part of all of our work. I'm talking about really getting into the heart of that digital revolution. So great opportunities for research. You can think about doing a master's or a PhD. There's all kinds of opportunities to study things like wearable technology or working on, say, developing online materials. There's an element of like cyber psychology. There are some master's courses in cybersecurity, cybercrime. I think they call it forensic computing. There's some great work being done with things like algorithms. I saw a paper where a chap had developed an algorithm that was being used to help predict with suicide. So really important statistical modelling. So there's master's courses out there in data analytics, and there's virtual reality, artificial intelligence. I've been interested in following the human-robot interaction side of things. As some of you know, I have an interest in dementia, and people with dementia are being sort of studied and supported with use of technology. It might be things to help them remember to take tablets or companion robots. There's a controversy side of use of technology, but there's fantastic opportunities if you want to make your passion into your work. So with no further ado, let's welcome Todd Parsons. Hi, Todd.
Hello.
So am I right in saying that you are passionate about technology?
Yeah, I always have been. So when I was little, I always used to kind of... So my dad used to work in IT. He was a graphic designer and then a web designer and then a manager of web designers. And he has this mate who lives across the road who reviews tech for a living and often gets to keep the things that he reviews. So there was always just kind of like...
different things to play with or experiment with?
Yeah, like new monitors and
did you like taking
cards.
things apart and seeing how they worked? Or
Yeah, definitely. So I've got my own... I've kind of built my own gaming
workshop?
computer.
Oh, okay.
At home. So that was... I think it's easier than a lot of people realise to build your own computer. It's kind of just... You get like a checklist, like, okay, you need a motherboard, a processor, a graphics card, and then you kind of learn what makes a good one and what goes well together, and you just basically screw it all together. It's like high stakes Meccano.
Was it the process of the product you were interested in? Did you just want to see if you could do it, or did you think that you will create something that you could use?
No, it was definitely the product. Because I've always been a bit of a nerd. I've always liked video games and I'm really into kind of movies and music and getting the best speakers. And
well, I said about the rise of technology and the intersection between psychology. I mean, it's the we're entering the era of the nerd, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the biggest show on TV right now is Game of Thrones, which is like it's just like D&D. It's
I don't
not
know what that is, by the way.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
The tabletop role playing and wizards and magic.
Yeah. Okay. I think as well, we might have some listeners who are more interested in the mental health side of things, but it's not that there's a disconnect between like the human psychology and the technology psychology, because people in mental health are working on sort of developing apps. Meditation and mindfulness apps are like totally dominating. Those people are making billions. Not always ethically, I don't think, because it doesn't always have a strong evidence base, but it doesn't mean that technology is separate from more human ways of dealing with supporting people and so forth.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, even in my field, so my background is in like vision science. So after I finished uni,
let's go back to that. Start at the beginning. So
at the beginning.
Yes. So you're one of our finest graduates. So you came
your
here.
words.
So you came here. When did you come here?
I started.
Did your BSc?
Yeah, I started in 2012. So finished in 2015. I did my dissertation with Louise, and it was about
Dr. Louise O'Hare.
Dr. Louise
Let's
O'Hare.
give her a plug.
Yeah, no, Louise was great. And my dissertation was about like the spectral slope of images and how it affects.
Sorry.
Yeah, how it affects judgment of threat. Which, yeah, I think that's most people's reaction to vision science. Pretty much everyone I know who kind of does it always says like, yeah, you'll get like one undergrad a year who's
really
super into it,
yeah.
and no one else is remotely interested. But yeah, after I graduated, I kind of went away for 6 months, did some volunteering, worked in 2 different shops, and then I came back and worked for Professor George Mather, I'll give him a plug as well.
Is that like an RA sort of post, or?
It was, yeah. So
he's a world-renowned vision scientist.
Oh yeah, no, George is
yeah,
massive.
Yeah.
He's like a household name if you're really interested in vision science for some reason.
Well, his is quite interesting because he does visual art sort of research, doesn't he? So.
Yeah, literally wrote the book on it.
Right.
I think I've always been interested in that kind of aspect of it because a lot of what I was interested in as an undergraduate was how the kind of mathematical properties of an image affects your more kind of visceral reaction to it.
Right, okay.
And that's very much like George's field as well. So I worked on this project with him that was essentially he'd set it up with Dr. Rebecca Sharman, who was a postdoc at the time. Essentially, I think she got a position at another university, so unfortunately had to leave the project. So
unfortunately for us, good for him.
Yeah, good for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there was kind of this vacancy on the project that he needed for just a year to kind of wrap things up.
So was that very technical, the work that you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously now this was right at the beginning of me kind of learning to use MATLAB and programming and...
So those are the sorts of software that experimental psychologists will use and things?
Absolutely, yeah. So I was using MATLAB with a kind of package of functions called the Psych Toolbox.
Okay.
In vision science, I think that's pretty standard. Like most of the experiments you'll see, if you read papers, they always say like, oh, this experiment was run using MATLAB, 20 whatever with the Psych Toolbox package. So learning to use that was really helpful. And as part of my 9-month role, I had, I think, £300 of, they got a personal development fund. So that paid for me to go to the University of Nottingham and do a course on learning MATLAB, which was brilliant, and I highly recommend.
Extended your skills and things.
Yeah.
So you did that, and then where did you go next? You stayed here.
I did indeed.
Yeah, so tell us about how you transitioned into working here.
Well, basically, because I'd picked up so many kind of technical skills from working on this project with George, especially things like monitor refresh rates and the importance of color rendering and that kind of thing. I'd got quite a good kind of knowledge base to go do more technical stuff. And just as I kind of finished this 9-month research assistant position, Chris, the previous technician before me, was just finishing his PhD, and it just lined up perfectly.
Right.
So yeah, I just kind of applied for this technician post and got it. What I'm on currently it's called a technician scholarship, which means I work 3 days a week as a technician, and the other 2 days I essentially have I'm doing a postgraduate degree. It's kind of our choice. Chris and Heather both did PhDs. I'm doing a master's degree. I'm coming towards the end of it now, just writing up my thesis. And yeah, because of the 3 days a week kind of being a technician, that's what kind of funds the master's. So my fees are waived because I'm an employee.
So people out there should really sort of look out for some of these roles. It might be, some technicians elsewhere are full-time, aren't they? But there might be other roles out there, either as like teaching assistants or technicians, where people can really sort of make their passion their work.
Absolutely, yeah. For me, it was great because I really love the technical side of things. Since becoming a technician, my programming has just come on leaps and bounds. I went from when I was working with George, I was just doing this one experiment, and it was quite a straightforward.
What language were you using for that?
That was MATLAB with
Okay.
Site Toolbox. So that was kind of very standard psychology stuff. But as a technician, I'm learning stuff like object-based programming and learning to code in Python and R and
Python's really big, isn't it, for technology jobs? I'm thinking,
yeah,
or
massive.
Java.
I don't know Java, but yeah, Java is tremendously
Right.
popular, especially JavaScript. That's what most websites that do anything beyond just like
Did
a
you
landing
teach
page.
yourself something like with Python? Did you teach yourself, or I'm just thinking if a student's listening and thinking, I'd love to get into some of the cyber psychology or the technician, technical jobs.
So there's some really good books in the library. I think there was one that was MATLAB for psychology experiments that I learned MATLAB before I went on this course. That was what I kind of done previous. Data Camp is a fantastic website. Have you ever used Duolingo, the language learning app
No,
with a little owl?
I know somebody who's learning Spanish with Duolingo.
It's kind of like that, but for coding languages. So that one's really good for R.
Right, okay.
And on my masters, I've sat in on kind of Robin and Matt doing programming. Yeah.
Thanks. Oh, that's great. So, what about your current dissertation? Because I've seen the signs around the School of Psychology that says,
Are you interested in video games?
Are you interested in video games? Because that's another example, isn't it, of the intersection between yourself and your work and your technology. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm making that assumption. I'm making an assumption that you like video games.
I do like video games. That is a fair assumption, but not everyone that's researching video games does. Interestingly, I've met loads of people and read loads of papers where they've said like, I'm not interested in it at all.
Oh right, but
I'm
just
interested
the
in
science
it.
of
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I really
So what
like
are you
video
doing
games.
for that project?
Essentially, there are these modules that we have called eduloggers, and they can
Module.
It's just like a little. I think module is just a fancy word for thing.
Okay.
It's just a thing that's got kind of sensors on the end. So there's GSR, there's pulse, there's EKG.
Oh, right. Okay.
And we lend these out to students on a weekly on a week by week basis. So I've got the GSR edulogger kind of loaned out, and I've just been renewing it every week for months now.
Oh, right. Okay.
And what I do is I kind of track their GSR while they're playing a video game, Unreal Tournament 2004, which is like a first-person shooter.
All right.
And I wrote, along with Ferenz and Fivas's help, I wrote a mutator for the game. This is kind of something that you kind of put into the game's code that changes the way it works. And it basically just says every 0.2 seconds output their health and their kill score to the log. So then I just get this big long text file that's just like, 0.02 seconds. Player health, this. Player kill score, this. And I read that into MATLAB.
And you try to match it then to...
Basically, yeah. So I match that with the timestamps from the GSR. And by doing that, I can kind of see how responsive they were to in-game events. So essentially, I look where all the GSR peaks are. I look where all the points where I think I do 20% of damage or more. So if they basically take a big hit in the game, and then I look at whenever they get a kill, and I see how closely they all line up.
That's really fascinating. Is there a bigger picture, do you think, for that sort of research? I don't know, because going back to the jobs thing, I know that there's a lot of opportunities working in sort of digital marketing and sort of creating, what do they call it, like augmented reality, virtual reality, that kind of... Yeah. There's definitely work out there with that kind of sort of
interesting
creating experiences or...
Yeah, Nintendo actually trialed something that's eerily similar to what I'm doing. I don't think it ever took off really, but they had this add-on you could get for the Wii U. It was like a pulse sensor that you just put on your finger as you played, and it would like kind of change the music of the game, or like if it'd feel your heart really racing, it'd kind of stop you and be like, hey, do you need a minute to sit down? And those kind of things, I think, that particular one didn't work out, but that kind of thing is really becoming...
I still play Wii.
Really?
I like Wii tennis. So actually, I find it very relaxing, very meditative. I hit balls.
Yeah. Yes, I recently bought a new telly, and I kind of insisted that it had a component thing so that I could plug my Wii in, because I still really like. I think it's really underrated as an indie console.
Wow. Something there for everybody, isn't there?
Absolutely.
So, thanks, Todd, for coming in.
Yeah,
Thanks
no
for sharing
problem.
your experiences. Do you have any final comments for people that want to take their passion for technology any further?
Yeah, I would say look for a kind of unconventional routes. So a lot of gaming companies actually have on-site psychiatrists. I know Valve, the company that runs Steam, they have an on-site psychiatrist. And I'm actually currently looking at kind of funding for my PhD when I finish my master's. And I'm looking at things like Epic, the people that make Fortnite and Unreal Tournament. Anyone using Unreal language, which is what those games run in, they kind of offering grants of 5 to 500 grand. So that's a really
incentive.
Yeah. So that's a really useful thing.
Yeah, I think it is about thinking outside the box a little bit, isn't it? Because there are some like master's programs that you'll see that are use terms that people might not have heard about. So I mentioned something like forensic computing.
Yeah.
You might not. It doesn't say technology psychology.
Yeah, completely.
They have different sort of names and things. So. There's great opportunities, isn't there, both for research but also for people who want to work in, say, the police or for the government on the good side of hacking. I think there's a master's in ethical hacking that I saw. That's what it's called, seriously. Yeah, it's learning the skills to help protect us all. So.
Yeah, and psychology absolutely plays a part in that. I mean, there's a lot of people in the department do face recognition, and they consult with Lincoln Local Council.
Ritchie was on
Crime Watch. Yeah.
All right. So, we'll finish there. Thanks, Todd. Time to say goodbye.
Okay, bye.
So you've been listening, everyone, to Talking Jobs with me, Rachel Bromnick, and our guest today, Todd Parsons. So thanks, everyone, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye for now. Bye.